When I die, whenever that day comes, I will hear the wind that howls like a wolf and know I am home.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sandra. Today I'm back with my husband to finish up the Red Rising Saga by Pierce Brown. And we're talking about Lightbringer today. Say hey to Kyle.
Wow, that was masterful work there.
I've been moping around the house ever since finishing this series. I have no words. I don't know why I put myself through this pain.
They kept saying, can't be worse than The Dark Age, it's going to be a lighter book. It's got light in the name, so it's going to be better.
Lies.
That's debatable at this point, yeah.
I was expecting a lot of triumph and making some headway in this war, and I just got my heart broken.
Yeah, no, there was levity in this one. There was good things that happened, but it's amazing how quickly all those good feelings can go away.
I was talking to you a little bit about this earlier, but I feel like part 4 was such a downer for this entire book that I almost wish that we were going over each of these books part by part so that we could discuss other things besides the horrible thing that happened in this book.
Yeah, there's so much that happens, and specifically the way he does the point of views during the different parts where really it's like during this part you get these set of point of views, during this part you get a different set of point of views. It makes it feel like when you finish the book that the other parts you read weren't even the same book. Like it feels like going over part 1 and part 2 again. It's like, wait, this was the same book? I thought that was in the previous book.
So if you're clicking on this video, just know that this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion on pretty much anything that happened in Lightbringer by Pierce Brown because we have a lot to talk about. My question, and what everyone is probably thinking about after finishing this book is Lysander redeemable at all at this point?
Wow, you're not even going to go into anything else, just going straight to
No,
the heart of the
I
question here.
I need to talk through my feelings.
I don't see how it could be, right, at this point. I think he's too idealistic. He's constantly presented with all of this evidence of why gold society is bad, why specifically Atalantia is terrible, why all of these people are terrible, and you think that maybe that's going to push him over the edge, especially because the entire time he's been preaching about unity and we need the core and the rim and we need all of the stuff working together, and he's just like making a big stand and doing speeches and doing all this kind of stuff, and then when he's got the actual choice, the moment of truth for is he actually going to practice what he preaches? He basically like severs off the rim, like sets them back like 1,000 years, attacks the one area that's keeping the whole rim alive. And it's just, I'm not sure how you can come back from that. I'm sure there's going to be something like that. Like if he isn't redeemed at least a little bit, it's going to feel weird in the last book, but I don't think he can achieve full redemption.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is when he's holding the biological weapon, the Eidmi or whatever it's called, and he's considering between the gold one and the red one. It's what are the possible ideas that he's having with the gold one?
Yeah, I'm still not really sure how this weapon works and how you even deploy it. Can you only use it once? Can you use it as many times as you want? They said it's biological. Does that mean it's some sort of virus or contagious, thing? Like he needs to attack certain people, but it's not like the Republic is only reds or the Republic is only golds or whatever. They're all the different colors. So I'm not sure how you actually use a weapon like this.
And part of me is like, does he have to be on the planet to unleash one if it's a biological thing? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this develops in Red God whenever that comes out. Kind of need that book right now.
Well, it's got like nuclear weapon vibes where it's like you don't have to actually use it, just the threat of it is enough. But I'm like, in this kind of weapon where people could, seemingly defend against it somehow. If it's biological, they've got shields, they got bubbles, they got all this kind of stuff. It seems like it wouldn't be very useful if you don't have surprise on your side. So I'm not really sure how he's going to pull it off.
Weapon aside, do we think Lysander is an evil character?
I don't think he's evil, but I don't think anyone in this book, for the most part, has been painted as like a purely black and white character, right? I think that's what we've explored a lot over the course of the series is like Darrow isn't pure. Even Io wasn't pure. All these other people that are bad, Atlas, it's like, well, Atlas isn't a madman. A lot of the stuff he's doing is actually to quote unquote save lives or whatever, is using fear as his tactic to keep people from fighting. Atalantia, I mean, pretty close to pure evil, but not quite. The Jackal, there's been redeeming qualities of even the Jackal at this point, so I don't think anyone is pure evil. I think Lysander is just someone that's been manipulated his entire life and been told all of these ideas of grandeur, right? Because he clearly has some sort of god complex mixed with like a savior complex, because at the end of the day, he feels like he's the only one that can actually get this done. I think that's what's apparent at this point, is he doesn't think anyone else is going to be able to take it over the finish line. He's given this opportunity to go with Darrow and Diomedes and the Rim and basically fix things, and Cassius, and instead is just like, nope, I'm just going to do this myself.
You can say he's not evil. I think he's evil. I mean, he's basically Hitler now, right?
Wow.
He is.
I mean, he's making similar decisions that Darrow has had to make. Like, Darrow has gotten millions of people killed. Darrow has killed innocents. Darrow has turned in his own side, but the logic seemed better. The decision making seemed better from Darrow. The decision making from Lysander just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, how many times does he get betrayed, or whatever you want to call it, in this book? Obviously, there's like a chasm between him and Atalantia, but like at the end of the book, at the beginning of this book, he figures out that Atalantia is the one that poisoned Kalandora. Darrow doesn't use poison, so shout out to last episode where we're talking about that. He's doing like his show, and Atlas shows up and basically gets the Gorgons to beat the ever-living crap out of him. I'm pretty sure he says he's pissing blood or something along those lines in the book. Atalantia lies to him about taking Mars. She lies to everyone, decides she's going to take Luna. She tortures Glirastes, threatens to turn him into a pair of boots, poisons him. They turn his own greys against him, his own ducks.
But the difference between Lysander and Darrow is, given every opportunity to save his friends, whether it's Sevro from Apollonius's clutches or whoever, Darrow will always take the risk and try and save his friends. And then Lysander's like, well, I'm going to have to sacrifice Glirastes.
No, you're proving my point. That's the point I was making, is that Lysander, in the face of all of these things happening, still makes the wrong choice. Right? He's presented with more
But you're
and
saying
more
he's
evidence.
not evil at all.
I'm not saying
I
he's
feel
not
like he
evil.
is evil.
I'm saying he's gray like everyone else. He's been manipulated.
He's been manipulated, but that doesn't excuse all the chances he's been given over the last 10 years with Cassius as a father figure, and he doesn't have pure intents for actual equal goodness, right? And then every behavior, every action that he does is bad, no matter how he tries to twist it in his little brain.
Do you think he's worse than the Jackal? Do you think he's worse than some of the other villains in the series?
I think he's evil in his own way. He doesn't have a propensity for violence like Atlas and Atlantia does, right? Jackal was almost like this chaos kind of figure. Like, he wanted power, but he was more of using just chaotic means to accomplish putting himself at a higher position.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
So the real question is the world redeemable?
This world? Oh, yeah, I think it is. Still. We've seen good in every color.
Have we seen any good coppers? Any good whites? We haven't really
I
seen
don't
a
know,
lot of
but
the other colors, or not much.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten to see a lot of them.
I feel like you're really starting this video out on like a huge downer. You don't want to talk about anything else first before we got to, is Lysander evil?
I mean, Lysander was already dead to me after he killed the most honorable person ever, which was Darrow's protege, Alexander, because Alexander had so much growth. So after that, just the way that he killed him. And then he does Cassius in the same way, just like bullet holes. Didn't it seem like Pierce Brown was trying to say something with there being one remaining bullet in the gun when Lysander killed Cassius? I wanted Lysander to just be like, put it in your head. After doing this, put the bullet in your own head.
I mean, that definitely would have made for a weird story.
That's how I felt in the moment.
At this point, Lysander kind of feels like a one-trick pony, and it almost makes him less interesting to me, because he just keeps making the same mistakes. We talked about that on a lot of the other ones, where it's like it seems like he just keeps making the wrong decision. Like, anytime he's given a path, he's chosen the wrong path every single time, and it's just like, it's getting to weigh on me a little bit to even read his chapters.
Weird, because that's how I feel as a reader. And I think that's why I hate him so much, because you want there to be a shred of hope that he'll change and start making the right decisions, right? And I feel like Pierce Brown was trying to set us up to think that. And then I just keep picking wrong, and Lysander keeps disappointing me, to say the least. I feel like that's why I hate Lysander so much, is because I keep wanting to like him and wanting him to change. I don't want the last 10 years of Cassius's life of trying to work with him and be a good influence on him to be for nothing. And I just feel bad, because you had people like Diomedes and Darrow, was it Darrow, saying, oh yeah, Lysander is honorable, he'll do the right thing. And then Cassius was even believing it, like they were saying it to make Cassius feel better. And a part of me is like, if you guys would have just shut the fuck up and not made Cassius feel like there was something redeemable about Lysander, then he wouldn't have basically sacrificed himself in that hangar.
It was Cassius and Diomedes trying to convince Darrow. Darrow was like, no, I don't trust this kid.
Darrow's
Cassius and
instincts have
Diomedes are
always
like, no,
been right.
he is honorable. It's like, he did this. He got on my ship and he came to help save the Rim. He saved my life. Like, he threw me into that escape pod.
It's just all a long con. I guess.
What's the saying? Never let a good disaster go to waste, or something like that.
Yeah, that's him.
He's very opportunistic, right? Because I mean, think about it. That's how he got his way on Mercury. That's how he got this. That's how he's gotten rid of a lot of his foes and survived. You don't want to talk about any of the fun stuff.
I mean, all of the fun stuff, are you saying that sarcastically, or
No,
the
I
fun
mean,
stuff to
if
me
you
was when Cassius was alive because he did bring that levity to this book. Just because it was fun seeing the brotherly bond get fixed between Darrow and Cassius and even Sevro. And once they finally were a unit again, this little trio, this brotherhood, then it got torn away. I'm just
I mean, it was
mad.
more than a trio. I feel like Lyria was the glue of the group.
You think so?
Truffle pig. Yes. She
This
gained,
is
like Cassius loved Lyria. She gained Sevro's respect. She gained Darrow's respect, and it really felt like they all had good relationships with Lyria, and through that, they all started kind of working through their own stuff.
this is the level that I'm at though, with being so angry about our morning knight getting killed and fucking Lysander. Part of me is like, Lyria, if you would have just kept the psyche, the parasite in your head and just said fuck it to your memories and assumed control
Wow.
using this AI
Who's the
technology
evil one
to
again?
I know. I'm like, then this wouldn't have happened. That's how bitter I am right now. I mean, this happened in back-to-back books. That's why I'm this way.
I didn't really like how they treated the Parasite storyline. It just felt unfulfilling.
It went nowhere. They made it out to be this big thing that was going to play out with Fig in the last book or whatever. And then she's off because Pax is like, you have to find Oculus. You have to get it fixed. And so she goes on this little quest to try and figure it out. Instead, she runs into, Matteo and Quicksilver on their little hidden asteroid. And it's just like, I want it out. So it'll be interesting to see if that was really it. That's where the plot ended, or if it gets picked up in a different way in the final book. But I was kind of disappointed by that.
Yeah, it just feels like there has to be something more to it. It's like all of this that we talked about before is justifying Quicksilver. Like that doesn't really seem like it makes sense to me. Or, was it all just for Lyria to like go through her own moment where she realizes that her past is important or whatever, like a
Yeah.
character growth moment? But even then, it just felt light for the amount of book that's been written about this thing and all the kind of intrigue around it, just to be like, nope, not gonna do it.
She had so much rage in her as a character until like that moment, whatever. And then it's like an acceptance of her past and her memories and keeping them because she didn't want to forget about, who her nephew is or anything like that.
I did have another question about that whole section, because they were trying to send messages out or whatever when they're around there saying, we found something, yada, yada, yada. And then after she gets captured or whatever, she's on what they think is like a pirate base or whatever at the time, she tries to send like one more out. And then, all of the fighting happens. She wakes up, realizes Matteo, all that kind of stuff. But Matteo's like, oh yeah, we like intercepted those and like made it look like it came from like 100 million miles somewhere else. So I was like, how did they find them again at this point? Like, they didn't actually intercept it because Virginia gets the message and then tells Darrow or whatever, everyone in the Archimedes, and they just go find Quicksilver immediately. So I'm like, I thought that he intercepted these.
With Quicksilver and Matteo saying, oh, we're just going to take off into the deep Black Sea on our tabula rasa, just start fresh. We have all our children on this asteroid, whatever you want to call it, this little ecosystem that they've created. I guess the parent-child relationship was quite the heavy theme in this book, not only with like Quicksilver and Matteo being parents and what happened to them in the past, some of the choices Quicksilver made to survive up until this point, but we see it was a very black and white comparison between Virginia and Pax, when she goes to visit him at the Dark Star Conservatory, and just how her expectations of him were and how he has turned out and what he has to say to her, which is basically like, Dad was given suffering, you were given the world, I'm given, whatever it is that he has to do, and he's grateful for that. And then you fast forward over to Ajax and Atlas and see their weird father-son dynamic. And then there's just so much with like Volga's growth and her kind of shirking everything that Ephraim had told her, trying to please like her grandfather kind of figure, right?
Yeah.
She has to balance like who her father Ragnar was and then her grandfather.
Well, that's been the theme of the entire series, right? Like family in general and like how it affects and who really is your family and all that kind of stuff, which is, the heart of almost any story, really. But Pax did have a banger in this quote that you're kind of saying there at the end. He ended it with, "You never pretended the world wasn't broken, even when a broken world favored you." Yeah, I mean, Pax has continued to show that he's wise beyond his years, although that's what we used to think of Lysander. So still, still making me a little bit
We
nervous there.
we knew Lysander was going to be fucked up though, right? We said that at the end of Morning Star.
I don't know. I mean, Pax could be messed up too. His daddy is people think he's a god. It's not like it's been like the easiest childhood for him. He basically hasn't seen his dad in how many years now? I was really happy in this book So they finally like quote unquote fix Sevro, because having like a broken Sevro for 2 books has been painful, right? Like Darrow has been pretty much on his own this entire time, and Sevro is even broken for the majority of this book. But finally, I mean, we see some signs of life in the beginning of the book, or when he's in like survival mode. But finally, towards the end, him starting to talk to Lyria, him actually accepting Cassius and accepting his father's helmet, and this
Yep.
whole idea of legacy and being leader and not messing it up. Basically, several struggles been the struggle of the entire book. Like, should I be choosing my legacy but ignoring my family? Or should I be choosing my family and ignoring my potential legacy? Like, what is that balance? Right? That's what Darrow's been doing, what Severo's been doing. Even people like Lysander, right? Like, his family's dead, but it's still the same kind of struggle. So I was just happy that we finally got fixed Sevro, because it's been brutal, not having fixed Sevro. He was such a staple, such a rock for Darrow for the first 4 books or whatever, that having him the last 2 be basically out of the picture has been brutal.
Well, that's what I was saying when if you finally get Cassius, Sevro, and Darrow back together, and then all hell breaks loose. Just that whole part when it's called brothers in the first place. You're like, oh, you see them getting together and you see them having these deep conversations and talking about the past, and you just have this sickness sitting in your belly that something bad is going to happen.
The vibes were too immaculate, as the kids say, because there was a lot of oversharing. There was, calling each other brothers, talking about being best friends, lots of joking, all that kind of
Shaving.
stuff. Yes. Well, they went through Lauren's old house and went down memory lane, and I was like, nope, stop doing that.
I
Stop doing
don't
that.
want it.
I know where this is going.
We can
Please
do
stop
this
doing that.
after the war. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of each part of Lightbringer feeling like a different book, we don't even get Virginia's perspective in part 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, we don't hear from Virginia at all.
Which was like so weird to me because she had one of the most intense parts as well with Phobos.
It's hard for me to talk about that part without talking about part 1, at least a little bit. Part 1, yeah, just talking about how everything just feels like it's been so long. Like, we start the book with Darrow basically feeling, even though they've survived, even though they've escaped, they've been just floating around trash for like 8 weeks, stranded, feeling
It's
quite
8
hopeless.
months. It's been like 8 months and like 6 weeks or whatever since Cassius left them with
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about as well,
Ore.
was getting the helium. It's such a crazy thing to think about, like, this is how we started the book, like, they're, like, malnourished, basically. They're growing long beards. They don't know if Mars is being destroyed. They know that the Free Legion has been annihilated. They know Lysander is out there, Atalantia is out there. Like, it's bleak. And so the first part of the book, all we did last, it feels like, just going back now, it just feels like such a long time ago. I did feel like, I've been talking about who made the worst short-term decision. That's what I like to talk about in these videos. A surprising one here, Apollonius. He made a terrible decision because he thought he was going to draw in Darrow by purchasing Sevro or whatever, and instead Sevro escapes, like bites his face, and blows up the dockyards. It's like, oh hey, this might have been a bad choice.
I love the duel between Volsung Fá and Darrow.
Duel is an interesting way of putting it, because I'm pretty sure, I don't know what you call it when you fight someone for like 12 days straight, because I'm pretty sure that's what happened. It's like 10
It
chapters
wasn't
long.
12 days. It was
Uh,
very long, the sequence.
Yes,
But it started
it's
off
extremely long.
because what is it called when you declare a duel on someone and for honor
it
you have to answer it?
Ashvar.
Ashgar? Oh,
Ashvar.
Ashvar. Okay.
Asgard.
Asgard. Ashvar.
We're not friends and I don't give a shit about your games. I'm going back to Asgard.
Asgard.
And you see Volsung Fá. Well, this is after the Leviathan. Like they did a little institute trick where they used to hide in the bodies of the dead ponies, and now they're hiding in the bellies of the 300-year-old Leviathan.
Still trying to understand what this Leviathan really was. It's like a giant shark with multiple heads on its back and like 6 tails, and I'm like, what am I even looking at anymore? Like, I don't.
No, what's
I can't even
the
imagine it.
Pokemon that starts off as like a little fish? That's what I was picturing.
Which one? Magikarp? Goldeen?
Yes, that Magikarp.
God!
But like a scarier version.
Like a water dragon kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a Leviathan.
But yes, that was a cool scene for sure. I mean, you knew
With
something had to
perfect
happen.
timing. Because you had Volga going down the line, just ripping hearts out of chests, which it was sad to see. What was the son's name?
Sigurd.
Sigurd. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they called it the Passage of the Stains. Yes, where she had to go and basically rip out the heart of every single color. And the idea was that's how Volsung Fá was going to get Volga to like be on the dark side, basically. It's like, I gotta get her hands dirty so I can, like, completely manipulate her.
I was kind of annoyed with her character in this book. I adored her as a character in the previous books, but then this one, I forget how much time has passed since she's been taken on by Volsung Fá, but it's like she's just closed off that part of her that respected life, like she's a huge savior of animals, or that's what her end goal is or was, right? With all the money that she was saving up to open up like a sanctuary. And then she's just helping track down and capture whether it's the dragon of the rim or the Leviathan, and just, oh yeah, let's just slaughter them and then have a big feast and a party and just killing people.
Yeah, it was annoying.
And you had Lyria like, what are you doing?
I mean, I don't know. Once again, her only family she ever had was Ephraim, and then he died. I thought that would have been enough, especially knowing that Volsung Fá is the one that killed him. Thought that would
Yeah.
be enough to like make her not, succumb to whatever Volsung Fá does. But apparently, the allure of being reunited with an actual family member or whatever, being shown the ways of her people, since she's never really been a part of that, was enough to at least start her down that path.
I guess that seems to be a big driver for all of these people, except for Lysander, who doesn't have a family left and doesn't perceive himself to be able to have a found family, right? So he just kind of waves in the wind, which direction it blows.
An opportunist. There's no other way to put it.
I hate
Sort of
him.
waits
I
till he
hate him.
can, and then uses it. My unsung hero for this book is Lyria. She basically like got the boys under control, got all of them working together. I mean, if you think about it, like there was that scene where Sevro was still like in psycho mode and started torturing Diomedes
Oh yeah,
with a tickler or whatever all his knives that he makes, names them all.
tickler. Mhm.
And he starts fighting Cassius, and they're going at it. And like Lyria is the one that goes to actually stop it. Darrow's just like, let him fight it out, Lyria goes to stop it, and she gets hit, gets like knocked out, and that's what like stops the whole fight, right? She's also the one that goes in, convinces Volga to like be the person that she is supposed to be, and not like a warlord or whatever.
She did open up that path to get back to the Obsidians because Darrow and them were ready to be like, fuck it, whatever. And she's like, no, I'm going to sneak up onto your boat. You can't get rid of me. And I'm going to try and reach out to Volga. So she does open up that channel. Okay, didn't she get smacked to the head like a few times? Like so much attention was drawn to her getting injured in the head somehow, whether it was like the fight between Sevro and Cassius or there was another instance. Like I know she just had the surgery, but a part of me is like, I know that they supposedly melted the parasite and flushed it down the drain, but is there a chance that there's still a little piece that somehow embedded itself?
I don't know if that would make me more mad at this point, where it's like, oh,
Really?
actually, we didn't remove it. Got you good.
I'm just trying to make it make sense. I feel like we did this in the last episode, trying to count all of the people still remaining that were on Darrow's side, right? He has Sevro. No more Cassius, RIP. Still got Virginia on an island over there. Pax at the Dark Star Conservatory, wherever Victor's children are. But he also abandoned, like, so his brother, Darrow's brother, Kieran, is still arch governor or whatever of Mars. But he left his daughter back on Mercury, right? Rona? Are we just assuming she's dead?
I don't think she is. It's another one of those that it was kind of just like, oh, we left her. No one saw her die, but probably she's dead. And then they talk about all the things that happened to the Free Legions. They all got spirit of their. The other thing they said is a lot of them were working like in the mines there to like help get like materials for building ships or something like that, right? Or to rebuild Mercury. So I'm like, is she actually like part of the small group that got left behind to like rebuild Mercury? But yeah,
Maybe.
I feel like Darrow, he did exactly what he went to do. At the end of this book, he's coming back with more allies, more ships.
It cost him a brother.
Yeah. It's just that Lysander, threw a bit of a wrench in it. But at the end of the day, if you think about who's got more allies, Lysander has no one. Like, who does Lysander have left?
This is why he keeps fucking everyone over, I guess. Because he knows he doesn't have anyone, so everyone's disposable to him. I was so happy in this book whenever Atlas fooled him and basically took over. Like, they were drawn to the rim, right?
You were happy at this point?
No, I was happy. I was like, finally, Lysander's gonna get some humble pie. He's like
He's
dragged
been
out to
getting
the
humble
rim
pie
after
left
being
and right.
not enough. Not enough.
I mean, at the beginning of this book, he thinks he has Glirastes. He's got Apollonius. He thinks he has Roan. He's got the Rim, so he's got Diomedes
Hyber, his
and
whisper.
Kyber, and that's kind of like his group, right? And he's like he thinks that he's being so sneaky, and he's doing like kind of like a little mini coup. And by the end of this book, he's got Kyber. He doesn't have Pytha. He doesn't have Cassius. He doesn't have half the people he thought that he had. Roan.
Where did Kyber even come from? Kyber's one that is so mysterious to me. I just don't really have a good sense like what to make of them.
Came early in the book as like a kind of like a spy master or something like that.
But didn't he bestow some privilege on Kyber at the end of this book?
We made him the new Dux or whatever, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Rowan's replacement. He does have Cicero, who Cicero actually seems like might be a decent person, but also an idiot.
Is he an idiot though? Because I swear there was a line where Virginia said she still had a spy on the inside or something. So it does make me wonder. Because how can you fuck up that bad on Phobos like he did? It just seemed like such a rookie thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
That would be quite the spy. I don't know how you pull something like that off, but
Valder, he's still alive, right?
yeah, so that it should be interesting when the new Volga represented Obsidians meet with Valdir and see how that goes. Yeah, what I've really learned from the series of books is that being the carved mythological creature is actually the worst fate because you will be killed. Like, think about, like, well, obviously we had the Leviathan, we had Syraxes or whatever the name of that dragon was. We had, like, the manticores and stuff. I mean, they're, like, alive, but they're all, like,
Griffins.
yeah, Cage. All the griffins that got killed by old Valdir here. So that's like being the mythological creature. That's what you don't want to be in this book.
Mm-mm. I guess that's why Volga wants to save them.
Really not.
Yeah, apparently not. That's what just made me so mad about her. But anyway.
I was also really glad that finally someone was like, "Hey, by the way, the Will Away is kind of dumb now, so you should probably stop using it." I was like, Darrow, you've been using the Will Away for a while now, and you've gotten your ass beat like 5 times in a row. So maybe let's try something new here. You know, maybe something a little bit different."
Well, I feel like the last time the Willow Way was truly an awe-inspiring move or motion or whatever you want to call it was when Aja wielded it against Ragnar, right? Because she just sliced him to death, but she was using that. And then it just feels like everyone just busts out in the Willow Way move, and I'm just no, something
Well,
else
the
was
problem is
needed.
that Darrow's using the Will Away, and it's like, oh, by the way, all of your enemies were like trained by Lorne, you know, either directly or indirectly in the Will Away. So maybe we should try something different here, you know.
Which I like that whole scene, how it happened with him uncovering his own style, I guess you can call it, against, was it Volsung Fá? Yeah.
Yes, then the 10-day battle.
It wasn't a 10-day battle. It was like a 10-chapter battle.
It took me 10 real days to read it, so.
The Breath of Stone.
I haven't even said the word clang a single time yet. I figured you're just gonna repeat it throughout this entire podcast. Clang, clang, clang.
I don't even remember that. Did that happen in
Are
the
you
battle?
kidding me? You don't remember the clang? Are you serious? It was a huge part of this fight. Wow. So Darrow decides that it's going to be hard to just beat him straight up one-on-one. And so even before the fighting starts, he's trying to play mind tricks. And so he hits his sword together, or his two
Oh,
weapons
okay.
together. He hits them together, and it's clang, clang, clang. And then he says,
Confess.
confess. Yes. Tell us, that Atlas is the one that's actually controlling you, all this kind of stuff. And he does it over and over and over. And like at first, Volsung Fá is just like laughing about it. But by the end, after Darrow's been beating his ass for 10 days, and all the other Obsidians are starting to chime in and chant, and everyone's doing it, I'm like, that must have been intense. Like, can you imagine just, all these Obsidians hitting their swords together and stuff, yelling, confess?
Confess. Atlas is your master. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's just
it had
running
that
away
whole
island
shame,
to island.
the
Yeah,
shame
it
bell
did.
kind of feel to it.
Yep.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
So he has 2 weapons, and neither of them are his own weapon that he's using. He's got the Bad Lass from Thraxa, the Telemanus weapon. Why can't it Razor? Which, by the way, I'm like, he's been borrowing this thing for like a long time. I'm like, hopefully he gets it back, because he took it from Thraxa at the beginning of this book. And then he's got the Pure Phoros or whatever, which is like the Athena weapon, which was supposed to go to Darrow before, he gave all of them up. So I thought it was pretty symbolic, because he's got one weapon that's from a gold, right? And Cavix, the Telemanus family. And then he's got the Athena weapon representing reds and the Outer Rim or whatever. So he's got his mix of 2 colored weapons, basically. And so obviously, like, this whole book, besides Lysander being a piece of shit, is about Darrow and how he has changed. And he's kind of like completing his transformation from guy that was just trying to win the war like at any cost and just get it over with, to someone that like really understands himself and his path, the whole path of the veil, all this kind of stuff. I thought it was a nice kind of crescendo and culmination of all these different things coming together. And then that being symbolized in the 2 weapons he's using, where he is the one that's actually preaching unity and showing it. Unlike Lysander, who's been preaching unity, but then at the earliest moment where he can take advantage of that unity, does.
Yeah, he's behind the curtain, he's still manipulating.
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about the daughters of Athena. It's not really what I expected. I don't really know what I expected, but they just seem so I don't know, we haven't really seen like too much of them yet. Besides that little faction that helped fight the Obsidians, right?
Well, they
We haven't
hold the
really
big
seen.
trial.
They did hold a big trial, which I appreciate that scene when Darrow was saying all that stuff about, oh, trying to take shortcuts and yada yada yada. And then you had, Diomedes saying his piece, which was take your due.
I did think it was intense. So they're like Darrow's getting up there to like give a speech, and there's like some like little girl in the stands that just like points her hand like a gun at him and like shoots. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
that was crazy. Uh-huh.
I've been saying this a lot, right? Because we had Pax, we had Ragnar, and we've been kind of waiting on this next character that's kind of in the same mold to appear, right? So by that I mean they're like not naturally gifted in how they talk or whatever, but there's like something sophisticated about them in some way. They're like very like sweet, and it's kind of, I think I described it as like the good angel versus like the devil. He's been missing this like good angel version, and no one's fulfilled it. I'm like, is Diomedes going to be that? Because he's already saying like very stoic stuff that just seems like a little bit silly, but is actually like kind of deep. Like he yeah, during after the speech he was like, I can't believe you said that like about me, why or whatever. He's like, you brought shame to my name or whatever. It's like, wow. He's over here like trying to like back you up, and he's like, don't ever do that again.
I didn't really get fully on board with him until he wrapped his razor around his neck and handed the handle to his grandmother, Gaia. I was like, "Oh, okay, he's for real. He is an honorable one." But I hesitate because you know how those go in this series, whether you're a Alexander or a Cassius or a
Yeah.
Lorne.
I mean, it kind of felt like the Romulus moment or whatever, where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you give yourself up, and it's like, hey, that doesn't go well. Especially because Gaia was, I mean, you could just tell Pierce has done a pretty good job of the Rim and the culture and just kind of like how they act. Because even Atlas, in his own way, is doing the same kind of stuff. It's like Atlas is doing like horrible stuff, but it is in a weird way, this in honor bound or whatever reasons why he's doing it. But then, yeah, Gaia, you're like, well, Gaia should, the logical thing would be not to kill Diomedes, but it wouldn't surprise me if she's like, well, honor, and then kills him anyway. So I was, I was happy that she didn't end up killing Diomedes.
Was it his little sister, Thalia? The one that because Gaia killed all of her grandchildren except for Thalia. She didn't have the heart to do it, which is crazy
Because
to
that was
me.
the one that Lysander was like, oh, I could marry her later, or whatever.
Oh God. Yeah, I know how that goes. We'll probably pull a Nero. But it makes you wonder with Thalia living through something as horrific as their home being just completely desecrated, their sacred dragon being beheaded, all of this crazy stuff that happened, just people being slaughtered in the hallways. Is Thalia going to grow up and be okay with all this? It's just,
No.
it always goes back to the death begets death begets death. And every time you think that the cycle is finally going to be broken, like some people are finally wising up and letting some things go and moving on. Someone's like, nope, putting my foot down, Lysander, not letting it go, continuing the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, you can think about even just, not trying to get too dark or whatever. You can think about like real life stuff. And it's like, oh, how do you end the war on terrorism? And it's like, just bomb them. It's like, well, if you just bomb people constantly, guess what? You're just creating more people that believe in the cause because you've created like a life of fear for them.
What else do they have to lose?
Yeah. So when you think about these books, and it's like, well, you think using a biological weapon that kills an entire color of people or whatever, you think that's going to be the thing that ends it? It's like, no, it's going to be the starting point, Lysander. You kill all the Reds on Mars or whatever. Well, guess what? Now all the Reds on every other planet forever are going to be coming after you. It just feels like it's not going to work.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this whole weapon shakes out because Lysander's not just going to be able to make a quick decision and just hit the button, so to speak, because there's going to be so many repercussions of whatever decision he decides to make. Like for example, if he did destroy all of the Reds on Mars, he's still going to have to go get other people to then go into the mines and do that work, right?
There's something about this weapon that's like makes it very confusing, and that's kind of my point earlier. Is like I'm not sure how you even use it. Like it's super precise in some ways, but in other ways, like I just kill all Reds. I'm like, what if some of the Reds are on your side or whatever? Like it's very confusing at how you would actually wield this weapon.
Yeah, do people just drop dead? Is this something time clock inside of their bodies? Or is it a pathogen that is released someplace and it spreads slowly over weeks and that's how it happens? I want to know more about how this works. And at this point in the story, I don't even know who else knows of this weapon or how it works. Because Atlas, I guess we're assuming that he knew the details about it, but who else knows?
Yeah, I mean, do
Maybe
we know if
Gaia?
any of the people in the Rim know? Yeah, I mean, they had to know, right?
Because it was only their families, right?
And then, why have they not used this before?
Because they've had it for centuries.
what they call like an irregular moon or something like that, and you had to have
Yeah.
a certain DNA or bloodline or something to be able to access it, or I don't know. I got lots of questions
Yeah.
on the weapon, and I have no idea how he's going to actually use it.
Yeah, Alice went through a whole lot of trouble and lost a ton of people to get this out of that place. And it was Diomedes' sister, wasn't it? Vela. Vela will be used to take Eidmi weapon that Akari stole from Selenia 750 years ago. Almost 8 centuries, these people have known about the weapon and have refused to touch it. Everything we know that has happened in this world, the first Obsidian uprising, the Ash Lord and bombing, just completely annihilating Rhea, all of this shit, nothing was bad enough for them to resort to using this weapon yet. And then there's Lysander like, oh, I'm going to consider using this.
I guess there's just like cubes or whatever they're described as. Like, I got the red block and I got the gold block. Which one of these am I going to use first? You know, it's like, what a messed up way of thinking about it.
It's like one way he can take away the reds that have been a thorn in his side, and on the other, he could get rid of his competition, I guess.
Which genocide is it going to be first?
First, yeah, because he will do all of it. Do we think that Quicksilver really just pieced out like that? Do we think he's gone? Just that was it? He just sailed off into the great unknown?
That thing was weird to me, like in general. Two guys, they love each other, I guess, but they just have this own little like world, but they were acting like they weren't going to interfere in that world at all. So they're just gonna like watch all these kids all the time and see what happens. Like what are they even doing here? Like it's very confusing.
Were they actual kids? Like Homo sapiens? They referred to them as Homo sapiens at some point, but then I was like, are they talking about them like they're kind of bionic people?
I'm just
You
like
know what I
imagining
mean?
some weird like Lord of the Flies situation or whatever. I'm like, you just got like a bunch of kids together and you're just like, well, we're not gonna tell them what to do, or because then I feel like they made it a point where they're like, we're not gonna interfere, but it's a world and they don't have sigils.
They're just sitting here with their super microscope, telescope, watching what's happening all the way across the worlds. And the first thought that I had when Quicksilver was sharing his story about what happened to his first partner and the child that they had together just being killed, and he picked himself, like saving himself over the rest of them, I was just like, man, Matteo, you are really ballsy for just sticking with it because I would have zero trust in Quicksilver. He's always been that way in the whole series. The eyeball ring, that was super strange. Like Darrow has that now, right? He has the eyeball ring. Wears it on his pinky or something.
Everybody knows pinky rings are the coolest.
That means
Anytime
you're
I see
in the
somebody with a pinky
mafia.
ring, I'm like, this is a cool person I need to hang out with.
Sorry to the people wearing pinky rings.
And no offense to my pinky ring wearers out there. I mean, I have lots of questions. One of the other things that I find a bit humorous, I don't know, is, we had the Jackal do this like huge coup, in the last book to take over Luna. And I'm like, congratulations, Jackal, you took over this place, and then you get sieged by Atalantia like immediately afterwards, and do you even have an army still? Like, just seems like a really bad timing on when to take over Luna.
Yeah, what are his other options at this point? Is he going to have to ally with someone? And who would it be? Would it be his not sister, Virginia?
We have not gone back to Luna at all to talk about what's really happening there. The only thing that we heard from there was that Sevro got sold at like auction. That was it. That was all we heard. And then Atalantia be like, you guys go fight Mars. I'm gonna go fight Luna, and that's it. We haven't heard anything else. So I'm just like, what could he possibly be doing? I mean, he had some ships, right? But like, he must have lost a large chunk of those, obviously, when Virginia and all the other people left. Like, how many defenses does he actually have? And then it just seems like he's just such a small player at this point in this bigger landscape. So how's he going to factor in?
Doesn't he still have a lot of Earth? Because at one point, weren't they talking about his home base or whatever, just having a huge presence in like old Tokyo or whatever it was called with the Bone Riders?
Yeah, that's where the Syndicate or whatever was at. So I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
what else is going on Earth?
because you did have them with a presence there, but also Atalantia has, her home of Africa, New
Yeah,
Sparta. Yeah,
she's like hunting weird cheetahs or something like that.
her and her hounds and Tharsus's head.
Do you think Glirastes is still alive?
No. Well, what were you saying? The biggest loser of this book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you imagine? You're Glirastes, you basically get tortured, and you have to act like a dog. And then, best case scenario, you got killed and got turned into boots. So yeah, seems like Atalantia's going to wear your dead body around or something like that. Seems a little bit weird.
And then Lysander's just like, well, he was a friend that I had to sacrifice.
Sucks to suck.
Meanwhile, here I am like, no, biggest loser of this book is me, the reader.
I think the biggest loser, it's either Cassius again, for the exact same reasons as last time I said Cassius was the biggest loser, which is, once again, spent all this time with Lysander, thought that they'd fixed everything, just for Lysander basically to screw him over. Or it might be Lysander, because Lysander, while he does have more power than he's ever had, he has basically no one on his side. Kyber and Cicero.
He's got sycophants and fellow opportunists. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like he's got, I guess you could say like Apollonius is on his side. I'm like, how long is that going to last? You know, that doesn't seem like a true alliance or whatever. That's like when Darrow had an alliance with the Jackal. You know, it's like, oh yeah, there's an alliance. That's what I'll call it. An alliance of convenience.
It does make you wonder with Apollonius what is going to happen there, because has he been told yet of his last remaining brother being killed?
I don't
While
know if he
he's-
knows about Tharsis or not, but I know that he was not very happy with how Phobos turned out.
Because he was supposed to get Phobos, right?
Yeah,
Or is
like
it
he
someone
didn't
else?
get exactly what he was supposed to. I mean, he was also supposed to be the one that like got Virginia.
He got a little too cocky.
Was he getting the dockyards? Well, who was getting? There was something weird. I know somebody got screwed over in the dockyards thing. Was that Bellona that got screwed over?
Yes, Julia, she got screwed over. But okay, the way that Lysander let Pytha go, Pytha was mad. Mad as in, I'm going to do some petty shit because I'm this mad, right? Do we think that she's going to go back and find Julia and tell her what happened to her last, handsomest son?
I mean, surely she already knows, right? Wasn't he talking to a Bellona person or whatever? Where was Pallas from? I don't know. There's too many people to keep up with towards the end of the book. But, I mean, Lysander literally said after letting Pytha go that he was pretty much doing it because he knew it would be easy to, like, spring a trap because he knows exactly what she's going to do.
He's basically the only one that does mind's eye now, right?
We were talking about this the other day, that Mind's Eye is supposed to be this, like, amazing thing, but it's almost just like when Ephraim was taking the drug to not feel feelings or whatever. And it really feels like that's what the Mind's Eye is. That's the effect it's having. It's basically numbing him. And that's why he's okay with letting like a Glirastes die or whatever and making these kinds of choices. And that's the opposite of Darrow, who was making these terrible choices, but then felt absolutely terrible about it afterwards, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then he learned from those.
The mind's eye kind of reminds me of the in Dune with the truthsayers as well. You know how they're able to discern the lies from truth and stuff with people, like to see the inner of things. That's kind of what Lysander is doing a lot of the time.
He speaks truth as he believes it, but what he claims is a lie.
Yeah, I mean, he uses it for all different kinds of stuff. It's like just some special ability to like, I almost think of it like lucid dreaming, right? Where it's like I can be in a dream and then I can understand I'm in a dream and then I can just control everything in my dream. You know, it kind of feels like the same way where it's like I just have control over my mind. So, I mean, but he's using it to like, or people use it to keep poison out apparently and all kinds of crazy stuff. We know Apollonius wants to learn it. Has he been teaching Apollonius the mind's eye? Is there
Probably
going to be a
not.
point where if he doesn't, Apollonius turns on him?
I want a redemption arc for Apollonius. I'm like, thinking back throughout the series, has there been anything that Apollonius has done that has been completely unforgivable? Probably, and I'm just not recalling it, but I just want some more people to leave Lysander's side. I don't see Julia being happy with how Cassius got flaunted on that broadcasting, his body.
Like I said, Lysander feels like at this point he's pretty much screwed over everyone.
But I guess that could be a strength when you know you don't have anyone to rely on and you've screwed everyone over. You don't have to feel bad about what you do from this point going forward. Whatever it takes, right?
I don't know what choice he has at this point. I don't see how he could take on both Atalantia and Darrow unless this weapon really just is like super amazing. But I just don't understand the mechanics of the weapon.
But yeah, but where is he going to figure out how to use this weapon?
Hopefully there's a manual.
There is not.
800-year-old manual.
He's just such a snake. I hate him.
Tell me how you really feel.
I know. I can't help it. I'm just angry.
There was another person that started overindulging, you know, doing a little bit of oversharing, and that's Ajax. He was starting to get to the point. I thought that was actually the most surprising death in this entire book.
It was surprising.
I couldn't believe that they basically killed him off screen or whatever, off page. I mean, I think the reason it was so surprising, but maybe it shouldn't have been, is like right before, they're all just like, Ajax, you're such a good fighter. Oh my goodness, you're the best fighter. You're better than Aja. Like, you're so
Puffing him up
amazing.
for it.
Yeah, and then like 10 seconds later, it's like, oh yeah, Victra cut his head off. And I was like, whoa, Victra.
It was her and who was with her? Was it Thraxa? Somebody else was
Yeah.
with her.
Yes, Thraxa.
Two bad bitches.
I mean, apparently, Victra also had a pretty good line in this one. They come for our children, Virginia. Do not fear for me. Instead, pity them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, Victra's about to mess some people up. There's obviously a lot of other interesting stuff about that battle, but it all started out pretty crazy. Apparently, Lysander, I don't know where he learned this from, did some sort of crazy thing where he shot giant rail slugs from Earth like a month before, and then like did some sort of weird technique to try and get all these ships to line up to be hit. I don't even understand what this means, but it sounds good.
Like, I need to see this on the tether, please.
Yeah, so I was like, I need like a visual. I need some graphs, something, because I'm like,
Well, it's
we got
you
these
have
things
Virginia sitting
orbiting.
there, just like, what is he doing on that monstrous ship of his? And then she just keeps asking for the time and is like, okay, how much longer until we're in full alignment with yada yada? And then she puts it together and just realizing the mathematics of it all. She's just stunned. And that's honestly what I was expecting more from with the space battles. But it was kind of crazy seeing it play out. He is conniving. And every time we get a POV chapter from him, you're not even getting the full truth of things. It's almost like you get like the mind's eye version of his POV, right? Because you don't get his innermost desires. He keeps that hidden from you, the reader.
I mean, I feel like he divulges every once in a while, but yeah.
No, but he never gives away his full plan in his POV. He's like never thinking about it, right?
I mean, no one gives up their full plan in this book, I feel like.
But especially Lysander.
I know he did like some fighting or whatever in the last book, but I'm like, how does he keep getting away with being like, oh yeah, I'll fight, but never really has to fight anyone, Like anytime there's been a chance to do some sort of like razor battle or whatever, it's just like, just shoot him in the head.
He's got no honor.
Yeah. Like meanwhile, Darrow, that's all he does. He's like, oh, I could do like this crazy thing, but no, I'll just do a razor battle. We'll just end it right here, right now.
It's like in the flow of it. He's got Cassius on the sidelines cheering him on. Don't use your grav boots. Stay on the ground.
I mean, even the Volsung Fá one, right? They shot him with some sort of poison dart or something, right? Like ahead of time, where it's just like if he doesn't agree to this or whatever, we'll like use it. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. Sevro was like sniped him with something, and then eventually, like when he said he would fight, they like broke it off or like deactivated it. So it's like could have killed Volsung Fá in a very like messed up way, but he knew that by doing it this way, then he could get the obsidian on his side.
Yeah, the long 10-day way, you say.
The
Chasing around
one
the
where
islands.
apparently they're on island number 12 or whatever, still fighting.
Camp to camp, showing every single
Yes.
camp for their own eyes what a coward Volsung Fá is, with his soft, sensitive voice, not the machine one.
So what's gonna happen in the next book?
I mean, next book we have to find out what happens with Pax, because he is apparently on the fast track at this school and just flying through the ranks, and it's just
What do they call it? The Augustus something.
Adept Augustus.
Adept
Yeah.
Augustus.
Adept Augustus. So he's just flying through school. Then you have Sevro finally accepting the Twilight Helm. So I'm sure he'll kind of, with I guess Athena, but be leading the Daughters of Athena along with the rest of the Rising. And then I guess Quicksilver and Matteo are no longer here with their tabula rasa. And then we have the Valder and Volga, I guess, showdown to see if he'll bow to another queen or if he's going to do anything. You would think with this being a final book that they wouldn't have some conflict like that.
It feels like with the Obsidians, like if they don't get like a planet or something at the end of this, then that's gonna be bad. So I assume no matter what, they're gonna somehow end up on their own to kind of proliferate or whatever.
And the Ascalani are pretty much eradicated now, right?
Yeah, they were the last ones were like running away, and then Lysander killed them all or whatever as they were fleeing.
Cockroaches.
The Lightbringer.
And then we have Clone Adrius and Lilith. I just don't see Adrius, if he's still alive, like putting up with Lilith that much longer, because he could not stand her at all at like a cellular level. Just did not like her.
It seems like he's just in a very bad spot where it's like
He came back when he's 10 years old. What was he supposed to do?
Yeah, 10 years
This
old.
is all
getting
Lilith's
attacked
planning.
by Atalantia.
I feel like I mentioned this in the last episode, but if there was going to be a moment for Virginia to have some kind of faux relationship with her not brother, Adrius, that this would be a preamble to that, I guess.
10-year-old Jackal, Abomination.
He's like 11 now.
is more redeemable than Lysander. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yes, because clone Adrius is not Adrius original. Adrius Zero, whatever you want to call him. He's still his own person. He has these inherited memories and stuff. And sure, he was raised by Lilith, brought into this world by Lilith, but I still find him more redeemable than I do Lysander.
Well, he was raised by himself, really, right? Like where it's like he made like a bunch of videos for himself,
Yeah, so weird. Yeah.
The next book is called The Red God, right?
Red God.
So the last time I asked, is Lightbringer, is that Lysander or is that Pax? It was quote unquote Lysander, I guess. Red God, is that Darrow or is that Pax? Like Pax has to culminate with Pax, right? Like it just seems like at this point there's just been so much buildup of Pax and his skills and his life and who he is that it just feels like he has to play like a major part in the finale here.
I know Darrow is carved, red from turned into gold, but Pax is truly both, kind of like Sevro was rolled. And he's just flying through the ranks. Like there has to be something more that comes from that.
He's gonna be a pilot.
Maybe he's the only one that's going to be able to actually use what ships that they have, this hodgepodge fleet that they have left, and actually turn it into something useful because he seems quite gifted that way.
There's probably only like a 5% chance that this happens, but it has crossed my mind. So obviously, like they made a big deal about blues, right? And they have to be locked in to be able to like control ships, and so they can't, like with Orion and all that kind of stuff. He was able to just kill Orion because he's just like plugged in. You can't do anything when you're in control of the ship. Then we have this thing with Lyria, and I'm like, maybe this is why it was brought up, where she gets this thing and it allows you to control like through AI to control yourself and to control ships. And now we have all this stuff about Pax becoming this great pilot, and I'm like, is Pax the one that ends up getting this AI technology or whatever somehow, and then he uses that to control ships and to win everything?
Back when they were discussing how the psyche came about, how the original maker of it, whatever, like didn't they commit suicide or something crazy like that? And they only
Yes.
created like a
6,
handful
I
of
believe.
these. Yeah.
We'll only know where 1 is at. I'm like, oh goody, so 5 others.
Yeah, but as what you're kind of saying, it wouldn't surprise me if Pax knows like how to find out where the rest of them are or whatever, because he put it together with Oculus, right?
That's kind of my point, is like, even though the Quicksilver is out, it did lead to this discussion of there being 5 more of the things that Lyria had. It's not just the fact that he's in pilot school or whatever. He piloted whatever, like a regular ship, the Snowball or whatever, and took down a torch ship, just from his flying prowess already as like a 12-year-old. There's gonna have to be some ship or something that he's gonna be the pilot of, something to counter the Lightbringer.
And his 14 cubes. It's going to take something like that scale to be able to go toe to toe with having that kind of power, right? But that's another thing is like, if Lysander figures out how to use these cubes, does it affect only purebloods of each color? What happens to people like Pax? Are they immune to this weapon because they are of both worlds? Is that why it's outlawed and they're not allowed to do that?
New theory: Quicksilver comes back with his weird kids that aren't any color, and they just take over because they can't be affected by any of them.
the
Just
the
ravage 'em.
absolute opportunist. Yes. Guess we'll see. There's so many directions that this could go. I just hope that there's like a nice, kind of like the original trilogy. I hope that there is a nice, just wrapping up of this storyline that leaves you with hope, like the first 3 books did, because it hasn't felt that way in a long time.
The start of the second part of the series, I don't know if we still consider it all the same series, I guess, but ever since Iron Gold, like I felt this way, and I know a lot of other people felt this way, or it seems like just from reactions I've gotten, or it's just like, yeah, I don't really want to go back, like things were tied up pretty nicely in the 3rd book there, and everything felt pretty good. And coming back and everything like immediately turning to shit, you're just like, I don't know if I can handle that. So yeah, I mean, like I didn't want it to be just like easy where they just win, and it's like, well, what was the point of this? There has to be some struggle, but still, it's like, can we avoid another Dark Age feeling book? That's all that I want.
Not
It'd be
that
like
please.
10% lighter than that.
But I mean, this series has been so good. I love the first 3 books. Everyone complains about the first book being so weak and stuff, but I'm curious to come back and read it now that I've read through all the rest of the books too, because that the world building is there with all of these families and the caste system and how the planets all got civilized and carved out in that way. So I'd be curious to return to those books and experience it, knowing everything that I know now, what happens.
Yeah, I don't think Iron Gold was a bad book, but it was a decent amount of setup. We talked about like a lot of the breadcrumbs that were introduced during that book all got paid off in the later books. So
Yeah.
it
We're
was a
still
good
seeing
setup book.
consequences of things from early books.
I mean, this book, Darrow's still dealing with the consequences of blowing up the docks in Ganymede. Like every single thing. It's like, hey, remember that time you screwed everybody over? But yeah, you see the comparison there between him and Lysander.
Julia still hates his guts for killing Julian in the passage.
Yeah, even though he didn't have a choice.
You just wonder because Julia, it just seemed like she was physically distancing herself from Lysander and all of that bullshit going on. It just really makes you wonder what's going to happen with her.
The thing that I've been really confused about her in general is like, she is like an adversary to the Republic, but still has like a lot of sway in Luna and with like the senators, right? Like the senators literally invited her to come talk. She's like playing both sides.
I came up with a really great idea, dude.
Yeah?
I'm gonna play both sides.
Why would you tell me that?
She's a Bellona. Doesn't she have so much wealth? That's one of the things Lysander says, like, oh, that's why I was giving this to Apollonius, because you would have been way too powerful and way too wealthy with way too many resources. And that's exactly why I did that. He's just straight with her.
Yeah, it just seems weird that she hasn't been like cut off from the one side or whatever.
I guess we'll see. We'll see where Pytha flies off to.
But once again, Bellona is another ally of convenience, where she's like, if Atalantia is going to help me out more, I'll be more with Atalantia. If Lysander is going to help me out more, I'll be on his side or whatever. Like, it doesn't seem like she has any sort of like cause that she's really rallying behind. It's just, how am I going to better if this person wins or if this person wins?
I imagine in the next book, whenever that is out, we'll have to open up with whatever's going on in Virginia's world, right? Because Atalantia is this looming threat. Lysander let her quietly leave Phobos. So we'll see, I guess. We need an update on her side. But any last words about Lightbringer?
Once again, really enjoyed it, just like the other ones. Just hate Lysander, you know. So I think it's pretty much the same feelings I had at the end of the last book.
Yeah, every book has pretty much felt like that in this.
At least when I wrote down all the people that died this time, most of them were bad guys. Unlike the last book where it was like 20 of the major allies or whatever died.
But I wanted to see Cassius
Did you?
in the final book. In the final book, him, Sevro, and Darrow. I wanted, them to tackle whatever was coming in the last book together. And that's not going to happen now. I'm very mad.
It was nice having at least some character that was like telling jokes or whatever. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had anything
But
like
he had
that.
the worst of it. I mean, he had to have been the biggest loser in this book, besides Glirastes. But we were talking about this earlier. He died without anyone loving him because they were all using him for whatever means, right? So he didn't have that. He was known as like this great betrayer of his kind. And then he had to die with the fact that this kid that he raised as his own son / little brother figure was just a complete piece of shit, irredeemable. And that's how he died. It's just,
I think we made
it
this
was
even worse
terrible.
because we're like,
It was
also,
terrible.
he's never really even known love because it's like
He hasn't known love. Virginia used
Ori,
him.
Virginia.
Ori didn't love him. I don't know. At times I felt like there was something blossoming with him and Lyria, which I was telling you, I was like, this is so weird. She's like 4 feet tall and he's like almost 7 feet tall. How does this even work? But I guess it could have been like a kind of daughter-father type of love / affection that was developing too. Dude literally had 0 happy moments. I just feel bad for him. I'm so angry. This book left me feeling with a hole in my chest. This is not a comfort read at all. I cried. You went to go get wine at the store, and I had read the part where he was just killed by Lysander, and I just finished reading the book, and I was just so upset. This is not how Lightbringer was supposed to go.
Is someone going to still call Lyria Truffle Pig? That's all that I want to know. Or are they going to call her
She's
Eaglet?
Eaglet 1. Eaglet 1.
I don't know. I think Truffle Pig sounds better.
That's about as much as we can shit all over Lysander and talk about this book right here. And hopefully we can get an update on when we can ballpark expect Red God to come out, because I would like to get a happy ending to this saga.
Yeah, I am a little mad at you for making
Why?
me read the series before the last book is actually out, and then now I gotta wait like a year to read it. That's kind of messed up.
At least a year. Who knows how long it'll take to get out.
Yeah? Is he gonna pull it George?
Better not. Maybe he'll give it the Brandon Sanderson treatment. Which, on that topic, we'd like to continue these little series, maybe on a monthly basis, of reading some fantasy or sci-fi book series together and then talking about each book or part or however we want to go about this. And so we're thinking about doing Stormlight Archive next. But Kyle has not read any Brandon Sanderson yet, so I'm wondering if that's a good idea or if he should start on something like Mistborn.
Or just never read again. Just go back to nonfiction and act like none of this ever happened.
Nope, that's not happening. He's going to continue reading the books and we're going to have fun talking about them. So it'll just continue on a monthly basis, right, babe?
Are you having fun? Are you having fun? It doesn't sound like you're having fun.
No, this book was not fun. The last couple of books have been brutal. I don't understand why I keep putting myself through this pain. At least you know with Brandon Sanderson, you're going to get the next book relatively quickly. And it will probably be a finished series, right?
I guess we'll see.
But this has been fun, right?
So much fun.
So much fun. Okay, guys, I think I've tested Kyle's patience about as much as I can. So until Red God is posted or we finish reading a Stormlight Archive book of some kind, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.